first show.
Happy first show. Okay. I guess we should probably introduce ourselves first.
Do ladies first because you're older.
Sure. Okay. Well, hi, internet, or mom, because you're probably watching this. That's my guess. I'm Elizabeth. I live in Noblesville, Indiana, which is just north of Indianapolis. And I have been knitting for, I don't know, I think like 2.5 years maybe. And I just kind of got serious, I guess, if you can be serious about knitting. Just kind of got serious about knitting probably, I guess, in the last year since the pandemic really started. And I guess I should say this is episode 1 of the Sister Knitting Society podcast. So it's me. I live in Noblesville with my husband Trevor and our 4-year-old Elliot. And we have 2 pugs. One is 13 years old and she's a foster pug, and her name is Lucy. She's actually sleeping on the floor next to me. And then Francis is 6, and we've had him since he was a puppy, and he is probably out sleeping on the couch in the living room. And that's my little life.
I'm Grace. I'm Elizabeth's sister, her younger sister. She only has younger sisters. But I'm the middle child, and our youngest sister, Mary, does not knit, so she doesn't get to be in the Sister Knitting Society until she picks it up, which probably will happen eventually. I live in Arlington, Virginia, but I kind of move around. I've lived in a couple different places in the last 3 years within the DC area. So I've moved from DC to Alexandria to Arlington, and I think I'm probably going to go back to Alexandria in the next year if I can. I like Alexandria better. When we're recording this, it is 3 days pre-inauguration and things are hitting the fan in DC. So I'm currently at my boyfriend's apartment in Alexandria because the closer to DC, the more risk of seeing insurrectionists hanging out. So we're not into that. And I started knitting, I know it was before Thanksgiving in 2019. And I knew a couple of basic stitches like knitting and purling and yarn over before that, but I couldn't start a project and I couldn't finish a project. So I was basically useless as a knitter. So mom taught me the basics, and then I took a class at Fiberspace, which is my LYS, and learned how to start projects and finish them and how to fix mistakes, which was very helpful because if I didn't know how to pick up drop stitches, I was kind of going to be screwed all the time. And yeah, kind of same as you, where I like watched you knit a lot and you were knitting socks, and I was like, well, she is doing a good job of that, so I want to be like my sister and be a knitter. So basically I did it because mom did it, and then she stopped, and then you did it, and mom was like, ooh, that looks kind of fun again. I was like, you're right, mom, we should do the thing Elizabeth's doing. So yeah, I don't have as much experience as you, but I feel like we're definitely growing together in knitting because both of us are trying new techniques at the same time, and like each one's trying different ones at different times. So there's always someone to run off of as a sounding board, which is very helpful for me.
Yeah, it's super fun. Like when you text me and you're like, have you ever done the I-cord bind off? And I'm like, nope, but you can show me how to do it later.
So fun. I love it. I'm like, that's my new favorite bind off.
I'm so excited to learn it. I feel like there's a project in my queue that has it, but I can't remember what. So I'm going to have to figure that out.
Year, as you use up your stash.
As I use up my stash. That's like one of my knitting goals for the year, is to try to use a lot of my stashed yarn. I feel like I impulse bought a lot of things during lockdown, probably as a coping mechanism. So I'm not going to get angry with myself about it because yarn makes me happy. I like to look at it and I like to just go and squish it. So yeah, I'm not mad at myself for buying all the yarn, but I do want to make sure I use it all because I bought it because it made me happy and now I want to wear it because it
And then
makes
it'll
me
make
happy.
you happy again.
Exactly.
Again and again and again.
So yeah, should we jump into like talking about what we finished recently?
Yeah, we should. Do you want to go first? You've done
Sure.
things more recently than me. The only things I've finished recently are pre-Christmas, and it is January 17th. So
Okay, that's fair. I have finished one thing since Christmas knitting was over, and that is the tendril hold hat by Lindsay Fowler. So I don't know if you've ever seen this pattern, but it is like a lace stitch at the bottom with these like big elongated crosses, and then it has this like adorable little like picot edging, and I really love it. And I'm not usually a hat knitter, but I saw the preview for this one on Lindsay's Instagram, which is Larkspur Knits. If you don't already follow her, she's incredible. And I knew that I had to make this hat. It was just so pretty. My favorite little piece about it is that you can see the contrast color through the lace. So the brim of the hat is in this like really pretty like plum color. And then the rest of it is like shades of purple and orange and all kinds of fun stuff. So this is the Moody Pumpkin sock set by Woolberry Fiber Company, which was part of her October collection. And I actually got 2 sock sets from that collection, and the other one I'm also going to talk about today. I'm a bit of a Woolberry fangirl. I love it a lot. But like, let's be real, who's not these days? So I just think her stuff is really beautiful. So yeah, I really love this hat. Again, I don't usually like knit or wear hats, but I really like
I love the way that hat looks with your hair. The coloring is just right on. That looks so.
I'm really, really happy with it. So that's what I finished recently. I actually cast this one on Christmas Eve. I was like rushing to finish a lot of projects before Christmas Eve so that I could like reward myself with a cast on. And so I cast this one on Christmas Eve and I finished it on New Year's Day. So it was really fun. Yeah, I like could not put it down. And let's see, I knit this on my ChiaoGoo interchangeable set. I think it was size 2 needles. I really like that interchangeable set. I got it as a Christmas gift, not last year, but the year before, and I use it all the time. So that was a really good gift. So yeah, that's my only like recently finished object. So I'll let Grace go.
So my most recently finished objects, I don't have them with me because they were all gifts, was all of my pre-Christmas knits. I have a little bit of knitting fatigue from working myself to the bone on knitting like the month before Christmas, which might have been a mistake. But also everyone really loved their gifts, so it couldn't have been that much of a mistake. But I made a pair of Hibernation House socks, also a Lindsay Fowler pattern / Larkspur knits. Obsessed with them. They turned out beautifully, like so in love. They were these beautiful yellows, like I love them so much that I am now making a second pair of Hibernation House socks for myself. And this time they're in purple. And we'll go over that one later because I actually do have that with me and I have all the information on what yarn I'm using as well. So those ones were probably my favorite of my Christmas knits. Then I also did some simple skip socks from Adrian Koo, and I did those for my boyfriend Brandon in a self-striping yarn, which I'd never tried before. I tragically ran out of yarn. I lost at Yarn Chicken right on the toe of the second sock. So I had to go back and go back to my yarn store, find the same yarn. Well, I couldn't get the same yarn because I bought it over the summer, which was stupid. I should have cast on quicker after that. Yeah. So the second sock ended up having just all black on the toe, and then the other sock had 3 colors on it, and I was sad about that. Oh, look, here they are. They've been delivered. These are them. I'm so pleased with how they turned out. I love this. Like, I had never used the skip stitch before, and I think it turned out really pretty. And this is the BB-8 colorway from Haverland, I think is how you say it, but I'm not entirely sure. Don't hurt me if I'm wrong about that. These are the Pack Sport, they're sport weight, and he wears them all the time, and I'm very happy. So this one has 3 colors on the toe, and this one doesn't. And it was really awful when I had to do this because the other yarn was self-sharpening as well, and then I had to just like keep taking off the other colors, and so there were like 3,000 ends to weave in by the end of this. It was horrible for me, but it worked out fine because he likes it. I also made Hermione's everyday socks for my boyfriend's mom in another self-striping colorway, and I made a seed stitch bow tie by Melissa Egan for his brother, and he's a very frequent bow tie wearer, so that one got a lot of praise as well. And then for his niece, I made the kids pom pom scarf and magic mittens by Destiny Meyer in Lion Brand, Woolies, Thick and Quick, in Fisherman and Blossom, which was the same colors that she did in the sample on her website, which was perfect. And they turned out great. So that's
Those
all
were your first mittens, weren't they? You hadn't made mittens before that.
And they were tough. Like, I still don't really understand how to get the thumb right, because I couldn't get it where it was like all the stitches looked nice and neat. There were lots of holes. So.
Yeah, the only mittens I've ever made were the ones I made for you. And I also felt like I messed up the thumb, so I ended up just like using my, like when I went to weave in my ends, I just kind of like sewed all the holes together.
I did the same thing. I should have asked you about it in real time because I had no idea what I was doing. I'm glad to know that I did the same thing.
Yeah, I definitely did the exact same thing. So, and you finished all of those within like a month, didn't you? Like
all within a month. It was horrible. It was such a bad decision. I didn't do anything. I didn't work out for like a month because I was always knitting.
That's insane.
Probably was the worst.
Yeah, you need to like do some hand yoga.
I did. Brandon, my boyfriend, was sending me lots of links to ergonomic stretches for knitters, which were very helpful.
Maybe we'll have to link those.
Yeah, put them in the show notes.
Put them in the show notes just in case you also did too much Christmas knitting. I only knit 3 things for Christmas gifts this year. And they were matching sweaters for my 2 nephews and my niece. And I actually had planned to make a 4th one for my daughter. And by the time I was done with the 3, I was so burned out on that pattern. Like, it's a lovely pattern. I'll talk about it later because I'm knitting my daughter's right now. But by the time I got done with the last one, I was just like, okay, we're done with this. And I did them all in the same color, and like, I just needed a break. And that was only 3. And they were like tiny sweaters because one of them is a newborn.
The bow tie didn't take that much time. Certainly not the time it would take to make a sweater. But yeah, the socks, I was like, I have to do all the socks first because I'm going to get burnt out and get like very severe second sock syndrome. So I like really whipped those out. And then I was like, okay, we'll do the rest of it easy.
Yes. Well, that's good. I also have, I guess I'll let this be the transition between like finished objects and works in progress, because I have a half finished object, which is the Spruces sock by Huga Canyon. So I'm not sure if like the camera will really focus on the little details, but these ones were a test knit for Kim Jackson of Huga Canyon. And they were a partnership again with Woolberry Fiber Company for her most recent like winter collection. And so it was like a very quick turnaround test knit. We received the pattern early January. They were due, I think about 10 days later. We just had to finish one for the test. So I knit mine in the other sock set I bought from her October collection, which is called Autumn in Vancouver. So it's like this green that has like some browns in it, and then this like coppery brown orangey color for the heels, toes, and cuffs. And I really like Kim's patterns. I've knit several pairs of her socks before, including one other test knit for her for socks. And they just always have such like delightful little like details. So in addition to like the little spruce trees on the top, which again, I don't know if it'll really focus on those or if you'll be able to see them, but they're really cute. She has this really pretty, like, I'm going to try to move it over on the blocker, like this broken rib detail down the back of the sock, which is really fun. And then the texture on the heel is just like
Absolutely.
so nice. And then there's also this little like stripe of broken rib down right before the toe. And they are like a coordinating set. They don't match perfectly. So kind of like the toe of Brandon's socks. So I'm on the second one. So that's my first whip. And I just turned the heel and picked up the gusset today. So I'm working on the next one. So I just have to do the decreases, the foot and the toe. So I'm hoping I can finish that this week because that's not really that much. So on the second sock, the like little broken rib stripe before the toe is in the coordinating color, and then you go back to the main color for the toe, which I think is kind of fun. I like when they're like a little different.
I do too. I think it's fun.
I feel like perfectly matching socks are for factories. Like I'm not the kind of person who like feels like my self-striping like that they always have to match perfectly. Like I can get like perfectly matched socks from the store, but but I like these ones. So that's my half finished object, and my first whip are my spruces socks.
I like
I'm a big fan. I'm very happy with them so far. And I have these in my cute little Kitchener stitch bag that I got from Grace's LYS, which is fiber space. And look, at like breaks down how to do Kitchener stitch on the back. So if you forget, it's right there. And it's like literally the perfect sock size. So I love it. I love this bag. Anyway, Grace, what are you working on?
I'm currently working on my Evermore sweater from, I don't know how to pronounce her brand name, but I'm pretty sure her full name, that where you would find the tag on Ravelry, is Sabina Harnage. I think that's how we pronounce it. And then Kaidre is what her Instagram handle is. I don't know how to say it perfectly. I'm not a great one at that. But my Evermore sweater is lovely. And I don't have it on me at this exact moment. I have no idea what needles I'm using. I just know that they're size 10s. And I'm using Mirasol Ushia, I think is how you say the fiber that I'm using. The colorway is Cappuccino. It's a 98% merino, 2% poly amide blend, and it's like so soft. The lace work is beautiful. There's this beautiful like lace down each sleeve, and then at the bottom as well. It's a V-neck. It's worked from the top down. It's my first top-down sweater. And I really am enjoying it. It's been, most of it was just sitting around doing stockinette. It had a long latency period in the middle where I got a test knit for Alicia Plummer for the Woodstoke season pullover, which also became a favorite. But I started working on that before I got that test knit, and then I was like, I gotta really focus on the test knit, so I put it on hold for a while. So that's the first one. We're loving it. And then the other whip I have is my Hibernation House socks, which I still am just so obsessed with. It's what's this called? Super light. What's the mohair?
Mohair.
Oh. Mohair and fingering weight for the cuff, and then you fold the cuff over, and so it's like double thick. Gosh, it's just so beautiful. The yarn I'm using on these ones is Sweet Georgia Silk Mist Mohair in the colorway Lilac. It is so squishy and beautiful. Purple's my favorite color. I'm gonna learn that real quick. It's so nice. so beautiful. And then the other one I'm using my fingering weight is the fibrous Franklin fingering, and the colorway is Amethyst, and it's 80% superwash, 10% cashmere, and 10% nylon. And so it's just like so squishy and beautiful, and I love it so much. And I got these at the Yarn Club in Virginia Beach, which is like my third LYS. I have mine in Alexandria, Fiberspace, and then I have yours in Noblesville, Black Sheep. And then when we go to visit Brandon's parents, we go to the Yarn Club.
Love that.
So that's another favorite whip because I can just, they're like, I just love always having a sock cast on. You really taught me that early. It's very gratifying. I love how quickly they work up, but also you can take them slow.
Yeah, they're very convenient. Okay, well, I guess I'll go through the rest of my whips because I think I might have a problem with how many whips I currently have. So, the first step is admitting that you have a problem. So I'll admit my problem. I've got like a basket over here of all the things I'm working on. And so I have a couple of things that I work on like pretty actively. And then some things just kind of take breaks for a while, or they're like really long-term ones. So like I won't talk about all of the long-term ones on every podcast because it would get real boring. But it's the first one. So I'll just like show you everything that I have. So the first one is the sweater I mentioned I'm knitting for my daughter Elliot. So this is my this is Anchor's sweater by Petite Knit. And it's a top-down raglan sweater with this fun like ribbing detail on the top. And it's really fun. It's really stretchy and squishy. And my niece and my nephews all look freaking adorable in there. So it's time that Elliot had one to match. So that's this one. I'm knitting it in Cascade 220 superwash just because it's a pretty budget friendly yarn. So I actually got it from my LYS Black Sheep. Represent. I got it when they were having a sale. So I stocked up. I like literally bought every skein of this colorway they had in the store. So this is called Tuffet, and it reminds me of Little Miss Muffet because that's the only other time I hear the word Tuffet. So I think I have one more, like I've got like 2 more rows of this ribbing before I start the raglan increases. So like I feel like I haven't worked on this very much. Like I was planning on trying to get it done fairly quickly, and then I got the test knit for Kim, and so I was of course focused on that to make sure I had that done in time. But once I get like the raglan increases done and separated for the sleeves, I think this one will go really fast, especially because it's not like the ones for my niece and nephews. Like I can try it on her as I go, and also it's 100% superwash, so it like stretches a lot when it blocks. So that's this one. I'm knitting it on, I think these are Knitter's Pride Zings, maybe. I don't know. There's US size 6 needles, and my Chowgoos were already in use, so I had to like grab another pair of tips to make these. So that's why they're not on my regular trusty Chowgoo needles. So that's that one. So that's that, and the spruces socks are kind of like my active whips right now. Those are kind of the ones I'm like really focused on. But then I have some more. So then I have these ones are the Gerste socks by, I think it's Vera Cone, maybe. And these are from the 52 Weeks of Socks book that Lane put out. I bought that book for myself for my birthday, and I really love it. So I don't usually knit toe-up socks, but I really liked this pattern, so I figured I would try it. The only toe-up socks I've done, I haven't really been happy with. Like, I've been happy with them, but I haven't been happy with how I've like bound them off. Like, I can't quite find the right like stretchy bind off for toe-up socks. But I think the last time I did them, I found one that I really liked. So this one is just kind of like this fun little like texture pattern all the way through. It used a German short row heel, which I'd never done before, but I really liked. And this is in the Backcountry Knitters yarn. I believe it is an 80/20, so 80% superwash, 20% nylon, but don't quote me on that. And this is in the, oh gosh, what's it called? I know I wrote it down, sorry. These are in, oh, it's 85/15. And it's called Native Wildflower is the colorway. I really love it. So I picked up I picked up this from her and a sock set from her when she was having a sale, and I really like them so far. So I just need to finish up the leg on this one and then cast on the second one. Um, so I'm pretty far on those. These will be my sock focus once I finish the spruces socks, because I also like to have a pair of socks on my needles at all times, because they're so easy to take with me. And usually I try to only have like 3 whips going at a time. So like something small like socks, something like medium sized like a hat, or even like sometimes I consider sweaters medium sized. I don't know. And then like a large project like a shawl or a wrap. So right now I've got 2 pairs of socks, a kid sized sweater, and then I have a giant wrap on the needles that has been there for over 2 years. And it's fine. So when I first kind of got like really into knitting, I was watching or listening to the Pom Pom podcast, and I subscribed to Pom Pom, which I need to redo my subscription. I love Pom Pom, but one of the first issues, I think it was the second issue of Pom Pom I got, was their moon issue. So if you've followed them, you know that the moon issue was like a big thing. But I was still a brand new knitter. I literally knew how to like knit in the round and knit and purl, and all of these like gorgeous patterns in the moon issue seemed like so far out of my reach, except for the Sky Map by Emily Foden. So that's what I'm knitting. Except for this thing has to be like 84 inches long. So this is how much we have. And it's knit in the round in mohair. And it's just like stockinette as it's just mohair. So I don't know why I thought this was a good idea. It's going to be so beautiful when it's done. Like so beautiful. But 84 inches of just mohair. So, and then I'll try when I'm editing to like put pictures of like the actual finished objects for the ones that we haven't finished yet. But so it's knit in a giant tube, and then you fold it over and you embroider on it. So you can like embroider whatever you'd like on the 2 layers held together. And it's just gonna be so pretty. I'm making it for my mom, or our mom. I told her originally that I wanted to finish it for her for Christmas, and that was Christmas 2 years ago. So now I just keep saying, I didn't tell you what Christmas. So I've actually been working a lot on this recently. Natalie from the Love and Stitches podcast is hosting a like make 30 for 30 make along. So like for 30 days in January, you knit 30 minutes on one project. So I've been working, like this has been what I work on. So I've literally been knitting on it for 30 minutes every day for the entire month of January. I finished like 5 inches so far, which like with 200 something stitches all the way around and in just mohair, like that is kind of a lot. So I've been working my tail off on this, and I feel like it doesn't look like I've made any progress, but
I think it does. It looks really good.
Yeah, it's going to be so pretty when it's done. And then my last whip, which I didn't actually bring over here, I'm making the Northeasterly blanket by Skananigans. I don't really know how to pronounce it, but it's a cute little like chevron scrappy blanket. So I'm just kind of using up my scraps in that. So I'm using both, like I have one that's fingering and one that's DK. And that's just kind of like, sometimes if I don't feel like focusing on a project before bed, I'll like knit a couple rows on that. So didn't bring that over, but sometime I'll show you guys what it looks like. It's very small. It only has like 2 like columns of chevrons so far, and it's maybe only like this tall. So it's just one that I'm throwing my scraps in as I go. So I feel like that doesn't really count as a whip.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because it's so long term. Like, who knows? Like, maybe I'll finish it before I die. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like,
true.
I just, I feel like when we spend so much money on these like beautiful hand dyed yarns, like, I don't want a single scrap of it to go to waste.
Agreed.
And so I just want to use it all up. So those are all my whips. That was a lot. Cool.
You
So,
whip queen. I get a little overwhelmed if I have too many whips going at once. Just the
yeah,
thought of like, oh my gosh, there's so many things that I've started that I haven't finished.
I definitely am feeling that way. I think that once I finish, like the one pair of socks, like having one pair of socks, I think will help. And I'm going to finish Elliot's sweater before I cast on anything else, because then I'll just kind of be down to like a manageable number.
Good plan. I like it.
Anyway, so I guess we'll go on to acquisition.
That works for me.
Great, you go first. I've talked a lot.
I don't have anything with me, so I feel a little silly talking about all of it, but I did get some great Christmas presents in regards to knitting. So from you, I got, I think the brand is Cuddle Bunny Knits, Crochet Bunny Knits or something.
Yes.
Crochet Bunnies. I think I follow someone named Cuddle Bunny Knits, and that's why I thought of that. But you got me a beautiful sock set from them, and I'm very excited because, again, Elizabeth knows my favorite color, and it's the main color is white with like pretty purple and gold kind of speckles in it, and then the mini set or the mini part of the set is a beautiful dark plum, and I'm just so excited to knit with it. And I already found a pattern for it, and it's on the it's in the queue on Ravelry, so it's definitely going to happen. And then the other, you also got me Native Knitter stitch markers, which I'm very excited about. I'm not using any of them right now, but that's because I don't have any that need circle knitters instead of lobster claws. So those are probably my two favorite of those acquisitions. And then the other one that I got for Christmas that I am so excited to knit with, but a little nervous to knit with, is Brandon got me a bunch of Quivet yarn. And I like can't even explain the excitement I feel about knitting with it, because I look at it all the time and then I just have to go over and touch it because it is so soft and it's so light. I didn't know anything about Quivet yarn going into this, and Brandon goes to Greenland on a work trip one time and he's like, Grace, I got this amazing hat. It's so nice. It's so light, keeps my head so warm. And I'm like, sounds like the greatest thing ever. And he's like, but it costs like a lot of money because it's made with Quivet. And I was like, how expensive can Quivet be? It's yarn. I've seen expensive yarn before. Like alpaca's pretty expensive. So I was like, okay, it's certainly not acrylic. I can see that.
Right.
But then like I like held his hat and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the most beautiful thing in the world. And so he hasn't been back to Greenland since then, but he had a colleague who works across the pond and had to go to Greenland for a trip. And he was like, hey, if you go by this store, can you pick up just like a bunch of Quivet yarn for me? And the guy was like, well, how much is a bunch? And then he came home and gave it to Brandon, and it was like 8 skeins of Quivet yarn. So I'm really excited, and he's just the best. So I'm like trying to plan out what to knit with it. I've looked on all these, like I found like a random Ravelry thread of Quivet lovers and Quivet knitters. And they had some good examples of things to make and not to make. So a lot of people make scarves and hats with Quivet and cowls, but the general guidance is don't go too heavy on mittens because Quivet's a really delicate yarn. So if it rubs up against each other, it's really likely to break. And definitely not sweaters for that reason as well. Also, I live in Virginia. It doesn't get that cold. So a Quivet sweater would be a very dumb idea for me, unless I made it for Brandon next time he goes up to Greenland. But that is such a rare occurrence that it would be a very useless sweater. So I'm just very excited about the Quivet yarn. And sometimes I just sit on the internet and look at things that people have made with Quivet. And excited. 4 of them are a 50% blend of Quivet and I think Silk. And then the other one is 100% Quivet. So I'm just so excited. Quivet's muskox. I didn't make that clarification. But so if you've never heard of it, you're not unlike me, because all of a sudden Brandon was like, you got to try this yarn. It's really expensive to buy finished objects with it, but it's less expensive if I just buy the yarn. I was like, okay, I can.
I love that.
Yeah, so those are my favorite recent acquisitions. All about Christmas, even though it's 20 days later.
Yeah. So I didn't pull any yarn that I got for Christmas for acquisitions. I do have one because we're going to talk about kind of one of our favorite things in our stash and what we're planning on using with it. So what I pulled for acquisitions was I got this skein of Cumulus, which again, like it's not like a super expensive yarn, right? Like, so this is a baby Surrey alpaca and mulberry silk, and this is in the thistle colorway. So like this is 100% Grace's colors right here. Like,
yeah, you pulled it out and I was like, I love that.
Grace needs this. And the reason I got this is, I don't know, it was probably at least a year ago. My parents, like before, I guess it must have been before you really started knitting. I don't know. But our parents, when they go places, sometimes they track down like local yarn shops or whatever, and they like bring me home yarn from wherever they go. And they brought me this amazing skein. It's only like a 50, I think it's a 50 grain skein of alpaca. So this is like so cute, right? Like, so
beautiful color.
I know. So it's just this really pretty neutral. It even tells you like the alpaca's name that it came from. So this one's from Bo the alpaca. So thank you, Bo, for this yarn. So it's from Crystal Lake Alpaca Farm. I honestly should have looked up where that is because I don't remember where they brought it home from.
I think it's Colorado.
Okay. Colorado sounds right. They probably got it while they were skiing. Anyway, so this skein has been sitting in my stash for like since they brought it home. And I'm like, this is so nice. And I love it. But also like it's 50 grams. So like I need something that I can make with it. Because it's only 200 yards. And I wanted to like make something that was really special out of it. And so I was just kind of scrolling through Ravelry, and Morgan Panich, maybe, I hope that's how you say her last name, has a pattern called the Pappas hat, and it's knit with fingering weight and mohair, and it's like the mohair is like a coordinating color in it. So I'll see if I can pop like a picture in to the screen when I edit this. But so I'm gonna do these two together, and I'm really excited about it. So it was just one of those like impulse things. Like I went into the yarn store and I was like, okay, like I know that I need mohair for this or Surrey or whatever. So that's what I ended up getting, and I'm really excited to make this hat. So it's in the queue on Ravelry, and I'm really excited to cast it on. And again, like I'm not usually a hat person, but here I am like already planning another hat. But I'm really excited to use this alpaca because Bo's
chime in on this, because we did not talk about this in advance, but I am literally planning the same thing for the Quivet yarn. And I was thinking the same thing because one of the like 50-50 blend that Brandon got me is kind of a similar colorway to that, where it's a really natural, almost undyed looking colorway. And I was like, gosh, that hat would just be perfect. I love how the coordinating color looks. So here we are on the same page.
So we can have matching hats.
The best part is like both of us definitely already bought that pattern because she did a sale at the beginning of the year. And
yeah.
And I was like, wow, that hat would be great for my Quivet.
Yeah.
I'm matching hats now.
It's fine. That's so funny. Cool. And then we're pulling stuff from our stash to talk about what we're excited to make, right?
I don't have it with me again.
You're so silly.
I know.
Now you know for episode 2.
I do know now for the future. But my favorite in my stash right now is some Mono Stel Uruguay Allegria, I think is how you say the way or the style. I guess that's
Base.
it's a finger. Yeah, base. It's fingering weight, and the colorway is Locura Fluo. And it's just like this bright rainbow happy colorway, and I got it because you guys came to you guys being you and Trevor and Elliot came to my house for a couple of days before we went on a little trip to Shenandoah, and we went to the yarn store, and Elliot was hanging out with me because the girls were right at yarn stores. And she was like, I like this one. And I was like, girl, I'll make us matching socks. So I'm super hyped to make rainbow matching socks for me and Elliot.
It's gonna be so cute.
It is.
Okay, so the thing I pulled from my stash is yarn that you got me. And so this is Sheep Graffiti Socket Rocket. So it's an 80/20 superwash merino and nylon, and it's in the colorway Rose Latte, which is so me. So I'll show the camera the colorway. So it's like this like dusty pink with like darker pinks in there, and like, oh, it's so dreamy. And I'm gonna make again, this is like a Lindsay Fowler fangirl podcast, I guess. Because I'm gonna make her arrow leaf socks in this one, and I'm very excited. So it's a pattern she came out with recently, and as soon as I saw it, I was like in love with it. So yeah, I feel like these are going to be perfect. So it's kind of like a lace and the lace pattern in there, and it's just so pretty. So I'm really excited to see this yarn become those socks.
Yay! I'm excited about that.
I am too. It's going to be so pretty.
That one's from the Virginia Beach LYS, and yes. The hand dyer is the woman who owns the shop, and she's a delightful person. So we'll definitely go back and hang out with her again. They loved Brendan at that yarn store because he stuck it out for like an hour and a half shopping for yarn with me. And every woman in there was like, wow, you got a winner there.
I agree. He is a winner. Anyway, cool. So I guess that's all our knitting.
Yeah, I think
content. I'm like scrolling through my show notes. I gotta figure out a better way to do this.
With relatively knitting related and give our shout outs to who we love.
Oh, yes. Let's do that. Who do you love this week, Grace?
This week, I am obsessed with Sarah Shira of Imagine Landscapes. The Instagram handle is Imagine Landscapes. She's very into gnomes right now, so if you follow her, you're going to see a lot of good gnome content, which I personally appreciate. But the reason I found her is because I was looking for stuff to make with sock sets that wasn't socks. And I found that she has a set of, I think it's 6 or 7 patterns, and it's all sock set patterns that are not socks. And I just think that is the content I need, you know? Got beautiful cowls, she's got a couple hats. I mean, come on. You want to make something with a sock set, you got a beautiful sock set. You're not feeling socks because you never use the full main skein. She'll make it for you. They're beautiful patterns. I'm gonna learn how to do brioche. God bless her. Thank you, Sarah.
I need to learn brioche. I think I have I bought, I can't remember when, a pattern, and I can't remember who wrote it, so I'm gonna have to update everyone later. It was like a beginner brioche hat pattern, and I'm very excited to learn brioche. So I need to do that. So what I love this week is Emily Curtis's 108 Stitches podcast. So watching her podcast was what made me like text my sister and say, hey, we should think about starting a knitting podcast. So I really love her podcast. She's back after a little like holiday break. She just released a new video where she did like a little stash tour and talked about her knitting goals for the year. I really, really enjoy watching her podcasts. I feel like we've never met, obviously, but I just feel like the way she records, like you feel like you're kind of in her circle of friends, like you could be in her knitting group with her. She's just really sweet, and she has some really interesting Insights. So the name of her podcast is based on the number of stitches on a baseball. She works as a baseball analyst, and I really enjoy watching baseball. So the extra baseball content in her podcast, I think, is really fun because I admittedly love watching it, but I don't know a lot about it and the rules and kind of all the things that go on behind the scenes. So I've really enjoyed watching her podcast, and so that is what I'm loving this week, and I will recommend to everyone.
Good one. I love that. Okay, should we do our non-knitting related what we love?
Yes.
Okay, outside of knitting, my favorite thing in the world right now is candles from Oasis Soul Scent Company. It is Scent Company. They smell delightful. They're made with, relatively clean ingredients, which whether that matters to you or not is regardless. They smell good, so that's what matters. She had a whole, she does these monthly box kind of things, kind of like Birchbox, but for candles and self-care things. And she did one in November that was like kind of Christmas themed because Christmas was coming. And so it was like all of these different delicious scents. The one I got, the main candle, you get a main candle in it, and then you get some minis. And she does different ones every month, so it's not always like one candle and two minis. But the ones I got were the main one was Wonderland, and it smelled just like cranberries and Christmas. And then there were two other small ones in there, and I was stunned to see that my absolute favorite was one that is like a blueberry Merlot scent. It's called Whatever Lola Wants. And I saw it on the description online, and I was like, I don't think that sounds great, but I'm going to give it a shot. And let me tell you, I am super here for it. And I just need all the hygge because DC is a dumpster fire right now. And I could just use that. So yeah, I found her company on the Buy from a Black Woman database online because I was looking for tea light candles because I have a little gingerbread house that you put a tea light in, and then it smokes up the chimney. And obviously I needed to have that going for Christmas. So she had a set of 6 tea lights that you could get. And then I was like, might as well get some more because who could not use more candles in their house? So buy Oasis Soul Scent Company candles because they smell so good.
I'm going to need to go place an order immediately. And I'm with you. I don't think I would have initially thought blueberry Merlot would have been good, but
right?
I am here to try it. Cool. So my non-knitting thing that I am loving this week, and this is Lucy. Lucy can say hi to everybody. She just woke up from her nap. So my non-knitting thing that I'm loving, our local coffee shop released a couple of new tea lattes for the new year, and they released one that's called the Idaho London Fog. And I usually can't drink London Fog tea lattes because Earl Grey usually upsets my tummy. But let me tell you, this tea latte is actually life-changing. So they take the organic Earl Grey, they steep it in vanilla, and then they top it with cinnamon-infused steamed milk.
Yeah.
And it is life-changing. It is so good.
It's really good.
It's so delicious. If I could FedEx one to you, Grace, I totally would. It is so good, and it doesn't upset my tummy at all. So
Nice.
I kind of went out on a limb when I initially ordered it, but I was like, this just sounds really good, and it is. It's so good. So that's the only thing I've ordered in 2021. I have not ordered anything else from there except for that. So I hope that they have it forever because it's my new favorite drink.
I hope they have it forever because then I can have it next time I come up.
Yes, it's so good. So I don't know what about that is Idaho. I've never been to Idaho. If one of those things in there is specific to Idaho, somebody please tell me because I want to know where the name is.
I'm very curious about that too. If no one tells you, you should ask them.
I probably will, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it. So yeah.
Very curious.
Yeah, all right. Well, I guess we should get close to wrapping up. So my idea for the end of the podcast is very much borrowed from the Palmcast, which I used to listen to a lot. And Sophie and Lydia at the end of every episode did a top three. So it was usually not knitting related, and just kind of fun. And it ended up being one of the things I looked forward to most in the podcast, for aside from the knitting content, of course. So we thought we would, inspired by Sophie and Lydia, do a top three at the end of our little get together. Um, so what we decided on for this, our first week, was our top three books that we read in 2020. So Grace, do you want to go first? Tell us what you
I
read.
will go first. I didn't read a ton in 2020 because I got a little pandemic fatigued. So I only read like 10 books total. So 10's better than 0. So I can at least get 3. Number 3 is A Guest of the Reich by Peter Finn. It was a book club book for my local bookstore, Old Town Books in Alexandria. And it's about a woman named Gertie who was the first woman to be a prisoner of war in World War II. And the journey of how she's like this super rich heiress, basically, who kind of went out on a joyride in the middle of World War II to like the front lines and didn't realize that where she was going was now enemy territory and the US had lost that area. And so she was just joyriding around and then she got captured and taken prisoner. And it's a true story. And it's just wild. Like there's definitely, I mean, she's definitely a rich white lady of the World War II era. So she's like pretty racist. But like terribly interesting story, and all of the research that went into it I quite enjoy and found her very interesting. So that was my number 3. Second was Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. Reese's book club pick, the Hello Sunshine one. And I actually received it as a gift from Brandon's mom one time when we went to their house. And I picked it up and started reading it, kind of thinking like it's probably one of those books that like gets a lot of hype, but I'm gonna think it's kind of lame, like the way I am with most TV shows. But once I started reading it, I couldn't put it down. I thought it was so good. Like every twist and turn was super fun to go along with, except for the parts that were like, rapey. But I read through it super quick, and it was a pre-pandemic read for me, so I got it done like I think I read it in February. So I was still able to read like in a book, like in a cafe and all that, and my lunch hours at work. So there's like fond memories of like being able to read in public without a mask on that are associated with that book for me. And then number 1 is a book that I read every year because I love it. It's Little Women by Louisa Alcott. And there's just something that I get something different from it every time. But the first couple chapters, when they go to give away their breakfast on Christmas Day to the family in need, just gets my heart going every time. And like, I read it toward the end of the year just for that chapter. So yeah, touches my heart every time. And I also loved the Greta Gerwig movie version of it, most parts of it. There were some that I didn't like so much, but I loved the way they reinterpreted the ending and made it a different ending for Joe. So yeah,
Nice.
those are my 3.
I haven't actually seen the movie yet. I should probably watch it.
It's good. I liked it.
Love that. Okay, so my top 3 for last year. My number 3, I chose The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. I had not really read a lot of Neil Gaiman until last year. And I guess kind of the year before. I think I read American Gods in 2019, and I really liked that one. The only other Neil Gaiman books I'd ever read were children's books that I read with my daughter Elliot. So we read like the books about Chew the panda, who like bad things happen when he sneezes, and a couple of other like fun children's books that he'd written. But The Ocean at the End of the Lane, it's really short. I guess it's kind of more novella length than anything. But I guess all 3 of my books have a little bit of like magic involved in them, whether it's like magical realism or So anyway, I really like this one. It's the story of a boy growing up and his friendship with the girl at the end of the lane, and it's magical and it's weird and like it takes turns that you wouldn't expect, and again, it's a really short read. I think I actually listened to it, and the narration was really really good. I think Neil Gaiman himself actually narrated it, and it was just really like surprising and delightful. So that's my number 3. Number 2 was Sing Unburied Sing by Jesmyn Ward. I took that book off of a list of former President Obama's book recommendations. So I feel like you can't go wrong with something that he recommended. And again, like I really liked the magical realism in this story. It was really eye-opening. It gave me a new perspective. And like I very frequently like am remembering scenes from that book as I'm like going through my everyday life. So that one has really stuck with me. If you have not read that one, again, highly, highly recommend it. The way that it weaves like past and present together is just really beautiful. And then, like you, my number 1 book is something that I read every year. I think that we might have a few things in common as sisters, but my number 1, forever and always in my heart, is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I read it every year starting on December 1st. I actually started a little bit late this year. Again, probably thanks to some pandemic fatigue. But yes, I read Wuthering Heights every year. It is my absolute favorite book. Don't ask me why. Like the characters are literally horrible people, and like, and it's just like dark and depressing most of the time. And like the framed narrative, you know, like your actual narrator doesn't. He's just awful. But I love this book. I love how it like takes me away. I love how like I get something new from it every time I read it. I cry at the same spots every time. Like it's my favorite book, and so I read it every year. I've read it every year since I was a freshman in high school, so that would have been 2005. And except for there was one year where I read it twice because my college degree is actually in English literature, and so for my British literature class one year, it was assigned reading. So it's like I'd read it at Christmas, and then I took that class in the spring, so I read it again, and again did not mind at all. So I've read it probably close to 20 times at this point, almost 20, and I just love it. So that's my top 3.
Yay!
Good. All right.
Yeah, I guess that's all we have.
I guess that's all we have. Thanks for tuning in, I guess. Hi, Mom. You can find us on Instagram at Sister Knitting Society. We are also individually on Instagram. And those are usually tagged in our Sister Knitting Society posts. So you can find us there. And we're also on Ravelry. I am EA Pike.
And I am Grace Moser, same as my Instagram handle.
So nice and easy. But thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Yay!